Welcome again to Word of Torah. I'm with Moshe Abrams. I'm Rod Bryant. Sorry, we've been away for a couple of weeks. We had to take a much needed break in our research. We were actually got lost in our research and we finally found ourselves back. Moshe had to take, and he went out of country for a week or so and went to have some time with family members. So it's really good to have you back. I've been busy as well. So let's get back and dig this out for the next few months to a couple of years. I don't know how long it's going to take us to finish the Torah, but we have plenty of time to do it until Hashem wraps things up for us. So let's get started right off the bat. You have any words you want to say before we start?
It's an interesting thing because you like raising the idea that we don't know how long it takes to go through, because we're going at a kind of gentle pace. And I've been finding that if we go with like just a few verses at a time, you really dig down. Like you could read through quickly and get the fast story, but then you do make those little discoveries and go, oh, that word isn't what I thought it was. It has this different root that I hadn't anticipated.
Correct.
So I have a class that's been going about 4 years, and we're just finishing the book of Bereshit.
Wow.
But we have so much insight because we've been pulling it apart on that small level and going, that word only shows up twice in the Torah, so there must be a connection between those two. And his name means that. You know, we get really excited about it. So,
one of the things, if there's one thing that I would like to say to anybody that's watching this, this needs to be either this podcast or take Hebrew lessons from you personally or in a group.
Yeah, we have a lot of fun
that gives you the foundation. The reason why is, if you do 5 days a week in Parsha study and you don't do this, you're going to miss so much in your Parsha study, right?
But that's it. You want to have that cycle flowing, so you're synced up with, but then you also want to kind of go, oh, next time this comes around, I'll have a good word to say at the Shabbat table. Like, you know. Right. So there's one lady today who I teach 1-to-1, and she was saying that she was watching this series on YouTube, and I was like, oh, great. How are you finding it? You know,
as a matter of fact, I think I know that student. She's in one of my groups, in one of classes that we attend, and the rabbi here has a little funny thing that he always says before we leave. I know I won't say her name, but S has some very good information she probably wants to share. And
great! She's got a reputation for that depth.
Yes.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful.
Excellent. Yeah. At first, it used to embarrass her. Now, she just jumps right in. So Okay, Moshe, what do you have for us today? Where are we going to start?
So where we left off is we were looking at these rivers.
Correct.
And we were saying, okay, so there's these rivers. Torah's telling us, it takes a few verses over this, and it says that these rivers are coming, May Aden. In fact, it says, Nahar, and the river, Yotze, went out, May Aden, from Eden. Lahashkot, to cause irrigation, to give water, Et Hagan, to the garden. Or Misham, and from there, Yeparade, it separated. For Hayah, and it was Arba'a, for 4, Roshim, for 4 heads, which is separated into 4 rivers. I would say, okay, but why? Why has the Torah suddenly shifted towards geography? Why is it giving us a geography lesson? Because we know that the Torah doesn't really get distracted unless it's making a point. And so the two of us, we went off, what can we find about this? And, you know, you've been digging down deep, I've been digging down deep. A lot of the commentaries I read by the great sages, the Rashi, Rambam, on these things, they explain words and concepts and go, oh, it mentions bdellium. Bdellium is this particular kind of gum, which is, but it doesn't say why we're talking about geography at all. And so I don't know how you feel about it. My conclusion that I drew from the end of this is we just don't know.
Same. Yeah, that's look, I read many different explanations, but all of them are plausible. But we really don't know until it's concretely evident to all of us. And we have that in prophecy, right? We see that in prophecy, right?
Maybe this is something which is going to be useful to us in the future. Like this is, you know, it feels like a map because it says, oh, I go around this country and I go, and 2 of the rivers we know where they are and where they're going, and 2 of them we're not really sure of. So once we have, it's almost like what's that Nicolas Cage film where there's like a treasure map on the back of the Constitution of America?
Yes. Yeah,
it's like that, you know. We have some of the information, but it would take you know a revelation or a discovery to find out
Correct.
what the rest is, and then suddenly go, oh, it's been here the whole time and we didn't know. But
Right.
we're a little bit excluded.
For those who are listening, let me just give you a hint of a couple of areas that you should consider. Right. One is that this is sort of a metaphorical explanation in terms of geography that is describing something that is metaphorical and dimensional that Adam and Eve was in. I don't even understand that. That's one aspect. The other aspect is that Gan Eden is in earth, under the Temple Mount, whatever, right? It's inaccessible at this time, whether by you need to die to go to that other dimension, or you need to find a way to get under the earth. But none of that really seems to be plausible at this point, so we have to just wait. So very good. We held
whatever it turns out to be will be.
Yeah, we get what do they call that? The mid in television they call that the not the teaser, the thriller thing, where you kind of teased them on for a couple of weeks and left them holding the bag. And we're really but I'd rather apologize for not knowing than to say something wrong, and that's something we don't do.
Yeah. But it's like exciting when you come across something. If you've read this book, as many times as we have, and in this detail and in this language, when you come across something, you go, I don't know what that is. That's kind of thrilling as well. Now, not to say that I know all the stuff, but I'm constantly discovering stuff.
Correct.
And I get so much pleasure from discovering stuff in Torah that when I discover something and there's no answer, I'm like, whoa, oh, there's a gap. What could be in that gap? It's
Well, it's not frustrating. It's just challenging.
No,
it's like I
exciting.
And sometimes, no matter how much research you do, you won't find out until it's time for you to find out. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah. Beautiful. So I'm going to take us through reasonably quickly and just
go ahead.
Talk us through. Just before we leave, this word, I love this word here, yotze. So when we talk about this in the class, this is the word about going out or exiting. And you know this from the blessing on bread, hamotzi lechem min ha'aretz. So motzi is the same root as this. You also have yitziat mitzrayim, to go out from Egypt. And the other one is, if you're ever in a pub in Israel, you look above the door and there's a green sign that says Yatza'ah, which means exit, same root. Right. So whenever you see that Yod Tzadi Aleph, it's probably to do with that thing. Right. So we always say it's it's say on bread, you leave in Egypt and you're in the pub, and everyone immediately knows what it is. So zoomed out too far. So let's go through. So we have Shem Ha'echad Pishon. The name of the first, or the name of the one, is Pishon. And who has sovev et kol aretz hachavila? So sovev is in America, people tend to refer to this spinning top from Hanukkah as the dreidel.
Correct.
But in Israel, it's a sovivon. It's something which turns, right? So sovev is to go around. So it can either be spinning on its thing or circumnavigating. So it's sovev, it goes around. Et kol haaretz, all the land, hachavila, of the round. So chavila here, you can see it means a circle. So there's some country out there which is round, or some area which is round, and this river goes around it. And it says, hachavila asher sham, that is there, sham is there, has zahav. So zahav is gold. So this is why I'm like, normally, when we talk about gold, it's like, I understand if it's saying, you're going to make this altar out of gold or something. We're assigning to it some sort of importance. But this seems to be literally gold. This seems to be, okay, and it says, Uzahav haaretz, and the gold of the land, hahi, the this, which it literally means the she, but it means this, tov, which is good. So this gold is good. Okay? And then it says sham, there, bedolach, and bedolach is this bdellium, this gum, this resin, right?
I'm lost. What verse are you in right now? Verse 10 or 11? Where are you at?
Oh, yes. So let me find it. What I'll do is I'll use this very useful tool in Sefaria. Well, I absolutely love Sefaria.
I do too. I'm in it right now. That's why I was wanting to mention people to do that.
Yeah, it's so useful that you can take a verse, copy it, highlight it, Control C, and then Control V, paste it, and then you say, okay, Uzahav haaretz. There it is.
212.
So 212. And then you click on it, and you can also click on that and get the definition of sovev. And you see here it is, to turn around, to turn on.
So just a note to those who watch the class or watch this podcast, please pull this out before the podcast. It's imperative, because then you get to see references to where that word is seen in commentary, the Talmud, the Midrash, et cetera, et cetera.
Oh, yeah.
So it's a vast library.
Yeah, and all free at the point of delivery. Never in human history could someone access this much information.
Never.
They of course they take donations, and I try and throw them something every now and again. But I'm so grateful that someone has gone through and typed all this up, just for our benefit. Okay, so Evana Shoham, this is like onyx stone. So this is something that the river is putting out. It actually gets used in the ephod of the vest of the high priest.
Correct.
Has two stones of onyx of Shoham with the names of the tribes of Israel written on it. So it comes up every now and again. V'shem hanahar. So often we refer to God as Hashem, which literally means the name. So Shem is name. And the reason we're doing that is because there is this particular name of God, which is so precious to us that we don't want to say it like it's just any old noun, like house or dog.
We're attempting to not make it common.
Exactly. I had one of the Trinidadi students said to me the other day, which is a great way to explain why we're so careful with the name. He says, listen, in Trinidad, we don't refer to our parents by their first name.
Never.
How much more? Right. How much more should we be careful about the name of God, who is so much higher than our parents?
I agree with that 100%. I like that analogy.
Yeah, it's a respect thing, isn't it? It's the Shem HaNahar, the name of the river Hasheni, the second river. Sheni is, Shnayim, Shtayim, Sheni, it all means second, right? Is Gihon. Now, the thing about these names is you can go in and you can try and find what is the root of something like this. So if we just take a moment and zoom in on this, we don't know what Gihon means, right? But we know that every word in the Hebrew language has a 3-letter verb root. And sometimes you go back to that root and you get a bit of insight what something means. Now, you can't have a gimel as a prefix. So you can't add a gimel onto a word. It just doesn't have a function. So this must be part of the root.
Right.
But you can add in a yod, right? So if we're looking for letters to knock out, that's a candidate. You can't add in a chet into the middle of a word. But you can add in a vav.
Right.
And you don't normally add in a nun on the end unless it's specifically something feminine. So these are two candidates, but likely you've got gimel, chet, nun. And if you could take that and search it in something like Petli and try and find out, are there any other words that have this gimel, chet, nun? And what can I infer from the meaning? So knowing what can be a prefix, a suffix, an interfix, and taking them out, you are often left with the root that you're trying to understand. And you might understand what Gichon means, even if the current meaning is lost. So Vashem HaNahar Hasheni, the name of the second river, Gichon is Gichon. And it says, Hu HaSovev et Kol Eretz Kush. Now, the last river, Sovev, right? So these are rivers that go around something. Okay, and this seems to be going around the Eretz, the land of Cush. Now, there's been theories.
Cush is in North Africa, correct?
That's one of the theories. That's one of the theories. We don't know for absolute certainty because we don't use that word in that same way anymore. And it could have been that we've got confused, but it has that kind of vibe to it that it might refer to an African country.
The other reference to that would be in Genesis with Moshe going to Cush in the Midrash. It talks about being with a Cushite woman, blah blah blah.
Right. Yeah. In Mamash in the Chumash in the Torah, it refers to him going to Midian.
Correct.
And certainly later on, the blessed prophet Miriam, she does seem to have a problem with Zipporah being dark skinned. So there's seems like a little bit of racism there. I don't like to say that about someone as precious as Miriam, but it's pretty much there on the page. I think it's pretty hard to avoid.
Just the way she referenced it.
Yeah. So it's possible that Midian can be Yemen, or it could be Ethiopia, and those two communities are very closely related. The Yemenites and the Ethiopians have very similar philosophy, culture, food,
Yes.
And they travel back. So it might be somewhere around that region that Zipporah was from. And so that there might be an overlap there between Midian and Cush,
Right.
but not necessarily that they're the same country, but that they're in the same area.
Correct.
So we don't know for absolute certain, but we do know that Talmud mentions Jews in Africa very early on, thousands of years ago. They already knew about Jews in Africa. The Shem Hanahar Hashlishi, the third river, is Hidekel. And we have we don't know what Hidekel is, but we get clues. So first of all, it says Hu Haholek. Now the previous two rivers, Hasovev, they went around. But Haholek, Holek is to go, just means to go. It's not going around, it's just going. So it implies it's a straight river, or at least, relatively straight.
Right.
So this river is a straight river, and it tells us that it Holek, Kidmat Ashur. Now, Kedem means east or antiquity. That's why we actually have this Kedem grape juice for Friday night, because it means it means to the east or also kind of antiquity. So Kidmat Ashur means east of Ashur, and Ashur is Assyria, the Assyrian steppe. And it says V'hanahar haravi'i hu Parat. Now that just tells us literally what it is. That's the Euphrates. Parat is the Euphrates. And both the word Euphrates, which means fruitfulness, or Prat, comes from Pri, and Pri is fruit. So we've had a continual name for that river that means the same thing from basically the beginning of the Torah right till today. And that's a long, straight river.
Yes.
It's certainly got a wibble in it, but it goes pretty much from, the Caspian Sea. I think it's the Caspian Sea. I'm bad with geography, but it goes all the way out to the Chastim, where Abraham wanders from when he first arrives in. So it's a very wide. It's pretty much circumnavigates the whole of the Middle East.
Yeah, it's a bread basket of the world. Yeah.
Right, because a lot of the places down there, they're so dry you can barely live. But along the Fertile Crescent of the Euphrates and the Jordan, there's life. There's just abundant life.
One of the most phenomenal things that I witnessed when I was in Saudi Arabia was you could be out in the middle of a sea of desert and see a clump of palms, like, probably a football field size.
Wow.
You get over to it and there's a little indention and there's a waterfall and it's all coming out of the ground. Like,
wow.
It's just a phenomenal how that little patch, and of course they've learned how to irrigate the desert, and that's why they're doing so well. But
but the idea, that's it. You just need a tiny bit of water, and suddenly life just springs up. In contrast, absolutely. I mean, if you go down through the Negev, I was driving down there the other day, and exactly as you say, Israel it produces something like 15% more water than it uses. So it's like it has surplus. In a place like that, surplus is crazy. But every few whiles there's like a plantation or something. All you need is water, and then suddenly there's life.
Right.
And so when we see this story of God putting out these rivers across the world, it's really kind of a symbol of what giving water represents in Torah. Like every time we see an angel directing Hagar to a well when she's desperate and she thinks her kid might die, that's kindness. And then we see the servant of Abraham going to try and find a wife for Yitzhak, and the servant says, "Please, God, show me someone who will give me water and also water my camels." And that's Rivka. She's seen someone of chesed, someone of kindness. And then a generation later, her son goes and tries to find a wife, and as soon as he sees Rachel, he falls in love with her, and he rips the stone off the well, and he draws water from her. It's an act of kindness. And you keep on seeing this kindness, kindness, kindness. So when God waters the land, it's saying one of the things that this needs is it's barren without kindness. It's the kindness of God in metaphor of water sweeping out through the land.
That's good.
So let's just that's the end of the river thing. So let's give the ladies and gentlemen a little taster of where we're going to go next, because we shift suddenly back to the Gan Eden here, and it says v'yikach. Now, this word annoys me, because I love how ordered the Hebrew language is, right? And so you know how every verb in the language has got a 3-letter verb root. And then this one here has got kaf, kuf, chet, right? This has only got 2 letters. Now, normally, when there's only two letters, it's because there's a weak letter, right? There's a gentle letter that gets squished out by clumsy pronunciation over time. And there are only two weak letters. That's a nun and a hey. And those nuns and hey can just go missing. But this one here, the extra letter that's missing, is a lamed. The root of this word is not nakach or kacha, it's lakach. And lamed is not a weak letter. So I have no idea why it's going missing. So every time I see this word, I think you're a lovely word, you're a useful word, but you really annoy me because you're not behaving properly. So but that's.
But once again, there's a reason why that lamed is not in that configuration. There's a reason. I just don't know it. That's why
you're
the expert. Tell me.
I'm going to find it. I haven't found it yet, but I will.
I'll find it for you.
Beautiful. So if you see this word kach or vayikach in this case, and you're trying to remember what it is, just picture my pink face getting livid at that lamed that's gone missing. Okay?
Yes. And also, if you can't remember the word, imagine when you get a piece of popcorn stuck in the back of your throat and you go,
that's you want to take it out.
You want to flesh it out.
You want to get that lamed and hook it out in there. So kach means to take, like to take a piece of popcorn out of your teeth. Absolutely. So v'yikach Adonai Elohim. So we have the full letter name of God, which we'll do a lesson on one point because it's a really beautiful name. This is the one we don't say, right? So we just say Adonai instead, which means my Lord, and it doesn't match these letters. But it's not. We don't want to just slip past it. We want to take a bit of time and really break that word down and explain what it means. So v'yikach Adonai Elohim. Elohim is just the noun of God. So God took et ha'adam, took the man, the person, vayanichehu. Now, this is worth zooming in on for a minute. Right?
This is the big one here.
It's a lovely one. So what's happening here is you have the who on the end. Now, this is referring to who the verb is being done to. In this case, it's being done to him. And that follows on directly after the Adam. So we know it's being done to Adam and it's referring to him as who, right?
Mm-hmm.
We have a yod tells us he or it is going to do the verb. Yaniach would be he will do this. But with the vav, this extra vav is a tense flipper, like a worried dolphin, right? It flips the tense from the future into the past. So that means the only bit that's left over that is part of the root is nun chet, right? Now, tell me a famous prophet that has a name like that. I'll give you even shorter than that. Exactly those two letters. And it's really important to a lot of the people who follow this class.
Okay, you're tricking me here. It's embarrassing. Go ahead.
It's Noach. So Noach's name, we get told when he's named, his father says, I will call him Noach because perhaps now we will have some comfort and some rest from the troubles we've had, right? So this means to comfort or to rest. But it's intensive. It has a chirik and a tzere. So so what is he doing? He says he's taking the Adam, vayanichehu, and resting him began Eden. So he could have just put him. He could have sinned. He could have just put him, or he could have thrown him, right? But he rests him. It's so loving. It's like you've got a little sleeping dormouse in your hands. Yeah. You just gently putting it down. So
putting a tiny puppy on a pillow, right?
Yeah, you're putting the baby down to sleep. This is what it is, So he rests began Eden in the garden of pleasure, because we discussed this Eden meaning pleasure before. But it tells us why as well, and we're going to discuss this in more detail next week when we come back. But it says la'avoda ul shamra. Now, an eved is a servant. But this isn't the noun, this is the verb, la'avta, to serve.
To serve. Mm-hmm.
Ul l'shamra, and to shamor, to guard. So Adam is put in there, in this garden of pleasure. It's a pleasure to be there. The whole thing is made from pleasure. But he's not put there to just take pleasure. He takes pleasure, but that's not why. He's put there to work it and to guard it, to protect it.
Do you
And that's
realize
us.
all of the verbs that describe this are incredible?
Lovely.
Listen, to
It,
keep, to have charge, to keep in guard, to watch, to be a watchman, to wait for, to watch and observe, to keep, to retain, to treasure up, to hold, to observe, to preserve, to protect.
they're so poetic, but they also all have purpose. He's just
Yes,
come into the world and he's got a job to do. And that's what we want. We want purpose. We
right.
want to be needed. And the idea that God gives you a job, God gives you a purpose, you're like, God needs me for something.
We're partners.
Right.
Yes.
And the thing is, we may not be equal partners, but a dad isn't an equal partner with his kid. He takes something which is so dependent that it can't even, I'm sorry to say, but poop its pants without help, right? It's completely dependent.
Right.
And then he teaches it to become so independent that it can bring about something that's dependent on it.
Right.
So he's bringing you into the game. And we're going to have a moment, maybe in a couple of weeks it'll take us to get to it, where God says, okay, it's not good for him to be alone.
Correct.
So I'm going to find an Azakanekdo, which we have to discuss. Yes. That's a really important moment. So what
happiness
does he do?
To marriage is discovering what that means.
Oh, absolutely. And also a kind of a wonderful misery at the same time.
I didn't want to get into that one.
But when he says, I'm going to find an Aza connector, I'm going to make a wife for him, he doesn't make him a wife at that point. He brings him into the garden and he starts bringing in things in front of him and getting him to name them. So when you need something, instead of just giving you what you need, he starts involving you in the process. God keeps on involving you in the process of your own development. He wants you active and contributing. And that's what we want as well. The more we need, or the more we are needed, the more we feel like we can help people, the happier we are. Precisely. The more we need and we can't help anyone, it's wearying. So I think that's an important thing to take away.
Well, look, it's important to understand and to help people clearly understand that one of the things that God has set up as far as the process of humanity, humans cannot rest without proper preparation.
Oh, yes.
You've got to be able to be prepared. We talked about this. To be prepared is to ultimately give you peace and rest. But if you are laissez-faire, you don't care, you're not getting anything done. Now, when the emergency happens, you're in tough situation.
Yeah, absolutely. Beautiful. I can't wait for us all to kind of, get back together.
This is incredible.
Kind of digging down.
It's a great story. I forgot to switch cameras, so I hope that you guys that are watching didn't.
Is that when you say switch cameras? Do you mean that you can
No. I meant to change it from open whiteboard to just us.
Oh yeah.
To give a little lightness, but people that are watching realize that we're just absolute amateurs at what we do, and we're only posers. But we're here to try to give you some valuable information. Our next
and what
class,
a pose, eh?
I'm not a poser for sure. I guess models would be posers, but anyway.
Yeah.
Verse 17, chapter 2 is where we're going next, correct?
Yes.
Or verse 16. No, 16.
I just have it here. We'll cut all this out. So, yes, we've just done 15 and we're going to 16 next.
Okay, roger that. So your name's not Roger, it's Moshe. But anyway, until next week, we'll see you at this same bet channel, Word of Torah. Shalom, shalom.
Shalom.